As Kendall watched his friend's arm snap under the weight of the bear, Kendall faced a gut-wrenching decision. Run for his own life, or risk everything to save his friend. This is the Miracle Files. I'm Emily Jones.
And I'm Holly Worthington. We're two sisters who love a captivating true story, but we're also seeking more light in our lives.
So we're on a mission to find and share unforgettable, uplifting stories of God's miracles. We hope you'll join us on this journey.
Welcome back to the Miracle Files. My kids and grandkids all came to visit me this last month.
So fun.
It was so fun.
Yeah.
And Emily, your kids are all back in school right now.
Yes, I'm so happy. I shouldn't say that out loud. I mean, I love and miss my kids.
You can
so
say it
much.
out loud.
But the house is quiet.
You cried, right? You cried when they all went.
Of course. I miss them. But my house stays clean. It's wonderful.
You cry when they go to kindergarten. And then after that, you're like,
I did.
Bye, kids.
It's true. I know. I love this stage of life where they're all home living with me, but I also get my time during the day to myself, which is great.
Yes, you're in a fun stage of life. I loved when I had teenagers. So
it's perfect. It's just me and Milo. Only Milo's pretty sad. The kids are gone all day.
Oh my gosh, Pierre misses the kids too. When they were all here, he was so happy, and now he's so lonely.
I know. Every time you leave the house, he cries. You go to pickleball or do any of those things, you just feel bad for him.
Yeah, I have to take him on my Diet Coke runs to McDonald's so that he's not too sad.
I take Milo when he eats my chicken nuggets.
Oh my gosh, I can't even give Pierre my chicken nuggets anymore because he has to be on a diet. So,
sorry, Pierre.
Oh, I have to share a story with you. Okay. Just speaking of dogs and pickleball. So this lady at pickleball that I play with, she's actually on my league team, but she talks to me like I'm her dog when we play pickleball.
Okay, so explain. What do you mean?
Okay. So like if she wants me to let the ball bounce before it goes out, she'll say, drop it. If she wants me to like just let it go out, she'll be like, leave it.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Stay, leave it, stop.
She's always like apologizing to me, like, I'm so sorry. I talked to you like you're my dog.
Oh my gosh, does she say, good Holly, good Holly?
No, but she did promise me she's going to bring me some Scooby snacks. So.
Oh my gosh, that's too funny. All right, well, we should probably get into today's episode.
We should.
We have a good one coming today, as always.
Yes, my husband Blake calls this our hunting season episode. It's a little scary.
Just to get you a little nervous out there.
Cautious is probably a better word.
Cautious. So this is about a young athlete. He's a wrestler, a collegiate wrestler, and his name is Kendall Cummings. And you are going to love this kid by the end of the story, I promise.
You really will. He is incredible. Yeah. So let's dive in.
Let's go.
Okay.
Kendall Cummings, at 19 years of age, was both a business administration student and a wrestling athlete at Northwest College in Powell, Wyoming. On October 15th, 2022, his day started off with an early Saturday morning wrestling practice. It was a beautiful fall day, the sun warm and bright, the air cool and crisp. In fact, Kendall's coach encouraged his team to get out and enjoy the weather.
Coach Ziegler told us it was an awesome day and we should probably be outside. So we decided we were going to go looking for antlers.
Every year, deer shed their antlers, and shed hunting, as it's called, was one of Kendall's favorite pastimes. So, with Coach Ziegler's encouragement, Kendall and 3 of his wrestling friends, Brady, Gus, and Orrin, headed up some mountains just 20 miles outside of Yellowstone National Park. They started shed hunting around 11 a.m. and spent the day hiking through the woods. They had some success, and soon Kendall's backpack held a couple of nice large antlers. As the day wore on, the sun began to sink behind the pine trees. It was now about 5:30 p.m., and the 4 young men decided it was time to head home. As they started the hike down the mountain, the friends split up. Kendall and Brady wanted to take their time and look for antlers on the way down. Gus and Orrin, carrying most of the supplies, including all of the bear spray, felt ready to go and hiked ahead. Kendall and Brady walked down game trails and hiking paths until they came to an area that caused them both to slow their walk. Towering trees loomed overhead. Were those claw marks on the trees? As Brady scanned the ground for bear scat, he stopped and said nervously, "There are a lot of signs of bear here." And that's when it happened.
And as soon as he said that, it was almost like he was telling the bear to come out of the trees. The bear came out as soon as he said that.
And not just any bear, an approximately 450-pound grizzly bear. Black bears can be dangerous, but grizzly bears are much more aggressive. Grizzlies can stand up to 10 feet tall on their hind legs. Their scythe-like claws can be up to 3 inches long. They are truly built to be nature's killing machines. And this was what Kendall and Brady now faced head-on. Without any warning, the bear charged at Brady.
It happened quick. It got him. He put his arm up to kind of protect himself, and the bear broke his arm, knocked him onto the ground, and kind of pushed him up against a rock.
Kendall watched all of this in terror. He froze, not knowing what to do. His eyes searched the ground for some kind of weapon. He picked up rocks and sticks and threw them at the bear, but the grizzly didn't even flinch. It continued to shred Brady's flesh with its long, razor-sharp claws. Kendall desperately searched for a better weapon, and then he remembered the antlers in his backpack. They were hard and sharp and could be used as a weapon. He reached over his shoulder to his backpack. He felt one of the antlers in his hand and pulled it with all of his might. But to his horror, it was stuck. It wouldn't budge. He pulled again, but he couldn't get the antler free. It was too tangled up with the other antler and wedged tightly in his backpack. He had to think fast, and that's when Kendall made a very difficult decision.
I do remember turning and thinking, maybe I should run. I could get out of here.
It seemed everything inside of him was screaming that he should run to safety. At the same time, Kendall imagined how it would feel to know his friend Brady had died at the hands of a grizzly bear. Something even stronger, something valiant and kind and brave, spoke louder inside Kendall's heart. He wouldn't run. No, he refused to do it. As much as he wanted to escape, he wouldn't abandon his friend. So instead, he did the unthinkable.
I decided to jump down, and I grabbed the bear off of Brady, pulled on it, and it didn't even move. It was it kind of looked at me like, what the heck's pulling on my ear? And I remember it just had little teeny tiny black eyes, and they're all black.
The grizzly turned its beady eyes towards Kendall, its putrid breath filling Kendall's nostrils. Realizing he had succeeded in deflecting the bear's attention from Brady, Kendall could only think of one thing to do: run.
So I turned and started to run, but I only got maybe 5-6 steps out, and turned around. The bear knocked me onto the ground and pushed me into that deep, thick stuff. It was kind of like a corn maze. You could only see pathways where the animals would walk through.
In the thick brush, the grizzly growled and chomped with its deadly jaws and sharp teeth at Kendall's body.
I was sticking my hands in its mouth to kind of protect everything else. I was just trying to make sure he didn't bite anything significant. But after a little while, it just ran off, and all it got was my hands.
Kendall's hands were in bad shape, but he felt relieved that the grizzly was gone at last and that he had somehow survived. He waited for a moment, and then his thoughts immediately turned to his friend.
And that's when I started calling out to Brady, wondering if he was all right or where he was at. But he'd run down the mountain after I got the bear off of him.
Brady had run to get help from their friends, dialing 911 as he rushed through the thick forest. He finally reached Orrin and Gus.
He was like, there was a bear, and it's got Kendall, we gotta go.
Meanwhile, Kendall knew he needed to get out of there as well. He got to his feet. If he hurried, he could get down the mountain before sunset. His friends were probably pretty worried about him, and boy did he have a tale to tell. But right then, Kendall heard a terrifying sound. The grizzly snarling and snorting right behind him. The bear wasn't finished. Again, Kendall ran. The bear chased Kendall deeper into the thick underbrush, into a place where the world was reduced to narrow pathways carved by animals through the dense foliage. Through a labyrinth, the maze of game trails. Kendall couldn't tell where the grizzly was, but he knew it was close by. And then the bear circled around and stepped into the trail just in front of him.
So I couldn't really see anything, just these pathways, and I saw the bear's head come into one of those openings, and then it turned and looked at me and then rushed me again.
This time, the grizzly would make sure Kendall didn't escape. The bear's jaws and paws closed around Kendall's arm and leg, lifting him off the ground like a rag doll. The pain was indescribable. Kendall felt his bones creak under the pressure, felt his muscles tear as the bear shook him violently, like a dog would with a toy. It bit down on his head, and sharp teeth punctured his cheek and neck. As blood gushed out of his wounds, Kendall felt a sickening pressure building in his skull.
It bit my head, and it was almost like when you get a water bottle and twist it up super tight and then poke a hole in it and all the pressure kind of comes out. I felt it go into my head, and it, like, I imagine just all that pressure went out, and I definitely thought that was it. So I just kind of laid there, and the bear had its paw on my face and kind of was pushing pretty hard.
In that moment, Kendall knew he could do nothing more than surrender. He lay still. With its giant paws, the bear pushed dirt onto Kendall's body.
And I was just laying there, and I think that it thought I was dead. It buried me, so it was going to save me for later.
And then the grizzly disappeared once again. Only this time, Kendall didn't dare make a sound or move a muscle. Instead, he lay perfectly still under the heap of dirt. His first thought after a few moments was of his mother. He reached for his cell phone. He longed to hear her voice.
I laid there for a minute, and I definitely thought I was going to die. I got my phone out to call my mom, but the bear bit into my phone, and my phone was broken. So I kind of kept laying there, and after a while, I unclipped my backpack. I remember it hurt so bad because all my fingers were chewed on and bit, and it tore the bicep off my arm. But I kind of slithered out of my backpack, and when I stood up, it hurt a lot from the one on my leg. But I kind of hobbled down the mountain like maybe a quarter mile, maybe a half mile, somewhere in there.
As he limped down through the thick brush, Kendall's nerves were on edge. He worried every sound could be the bear returning. He'd faced the bear twice, and he knew he wouldn't escape again if the bear returned.
I was pretty scared the whole time after I got up and went too. I kept checking over my shoulder.
And then he heard it. A voice. He saw his friends on the trail before him. Relief washed over him.
I saw my buddy Gus, and I was yelling at him, but I had kind of a puncture right in my throat. It was making it hard, but I finally got him, and I was still losing a lot of blood and everything, but when I saw them, I was like, I think I'm gonna be all right.
The adrenaline had worn off. Kendall was in intense pain and bleeding heavily. While Kendall had managed to hobble to the base of the mountain, the trailhead, where an emergency crew waited, was still 3 miles away. And in that moment, 3 miles felt like an eternity. Kendall needed help now. He couldn't wait. And then, miraculously, he didn't have to. A rancher who lived near the foot of the mountain had received a cell phone alert about a bear attack on the mountain. He had responded immediately and driven his side-by-side up the base of the mountain where the boys had gathered.
So they were at the bottom of the hill with their side-by-side waiting for us. And then they wrapped a blanket around my head and loaded me up in their side-by-side, and they drove us like right 3 miles to the trailhead where the public has to walk in from. And then they gave us a ride to the ambulance. And then the ambulance kind of checked us out. And then they got a helicopter there, and the helicopter took me to Billings.
It still seems surreal to Kendall that he had been attacked by a grizzly bear. He now sat in a sterile hospital, his hair and head completely blood red, a huge gash in his cheek, puncture wounds in his neck, head, arms, leg, and chest. His scalp had been shredded by the grizzly's sharp claws and teeth. But at least now he was in a safe place, where he could get the help he needed. The last thing Kendall remembered that night was heading into surgery. He closed his eyes as the anesthetics took effect.
They did a plastic surgery on my face and head, and then they just did, I guess, a pretty standard surgery on my legs and my bicep, and stitches in all my hands and stuff. But I think I had like 70-some staples in my head, and they said like hundreds of stitches everywhere, a bunch in my face, my arm, my leg, my hands.
Kendall had begun his road to recovery, but sadly, he wasn't able to wrestle the rest of that year. Even so, he remained wrestling partners with Brady. Brady's arm healed up enough for him to be able to wrestle, and Kendall couldn't have been more happy when his friend took 5th place in the national tournament.
He went and he All-Americaned at the national tournament, so it was super cool to watch him do that. He wore my shoes and everything. It was kind of cool.
Kendall says he experienced several miracles, from the way things played out with the bear to the fact that the grizzly's puncture wounds just missed critical arteries in his neck.
Yeah, the one on my leg too missed a pretty good one. I don't think a lot of people do survive those kind of things, and I think that I definitely got lucky. I would say it was a miracle.
He says it was also a miracle that the rancher was waiting for him at the base of the mountain. With the severity of his injuries, Kendall doesn't know if he would have made the 3-mile hike out if the rancher hadn't responded the way he did. This story would have ended very differently without good people doing extraordinary things. And while God is in control, sometimes good hearts are also part of what makes a miracle happen. And for Brady, Kendall's courageous actions were his miracle. When asked if this experience has changed Kendall, he expressed that it's helped him to understand how precious life is. And then he humbly said this.
I feel like I've always been a pretty alright guy, but I try and help people out and stuff all the time, and whenever I can. Whenever I see somebody that needs something or anything like that, I try and help them out.
Sometimes, a kind heart is one of the greatest miracles of all. And Kendall's heart is clearly both kind and brave.
Super grateful for everybody, and I always tell everybody that I wouldn't change anything. I think it worked out just right. I think if I changed any part of it, Brady might not be here, maybe I might not be here, or maybe one of my buddies had run clear up the hill to find me and they got attacked, and I wouldn't change anything.
In March of 2024, the Carnegie Hero Fund announced that Kendall will be awarded a Carnegie Medal for Heroism, the highest honor a North American civilian can receive for heroism. If you ask Kendall if he's a hero, this is how he responds.
I guess. Everybody says so. I feel like really I was just doing the right thing.
Kendall will always carry the memories of that October day with him. The feel of the bear's coarse fur, the sound of its growl, the terror that gripped his heart. He still has nightmares sometimes. But he also carries with him the knowledge that his decision to do the right thing allowed an incredible miracle to take place.
So, were we right or were we right about Kendall?
I know. He is such a good person. You can just tell he has such a good heart.
And I love how happy he was for Brady's success at the wrestling tournament.
I know. I love that too. There was no jealousy or animosity. He just was genuinely happy for him, which is a really cool character trait, to be happy for other people when you can't have something that you want.
Mm-hmm. And we actually have a really sweet soundbite that we'd like to share.
I think maybe for Brady, it was pretty lucky that I had been with him. He tells me all the time when he introduces me, he says, "This is a kid that saved my life." So
I love that.
I know. I love it too, because really he was Brady's hero. I mean, if he hadn't done what he did, Brady probably would have died. So
can we talk about that rancher too? Because that to me was amazing.
I know. I think that if he had not answered the call, Kendall would have been left with a 3-mile hike on a leg that had just been bitten by a bear. I can't imagine.
Yeah, such a merciful act, in my opinion.
It really was. I think we also want to talk about what to do if you are ever attacked by a grizzly bear. I mean, heaven forbid, probably won't happen. But in case you ever do come across a bear, what do you do? Holly, what do you do?
Well, first, you don't forget your bear spray.
Numero uno.
Yes. By the way, I actually sleep with bear spray on my nightstand because I used to listen to all those true crime stories.
Too many podcasts about murder.
Yes.
I know. Same. I always run with bear spray because you never know what's going to jump out when you're out there in the woods.
You carry like one of those big old things of bear spray?
No, I'm sorry. I carry pepper spray. Okay. Pepper spray.
I was going to say, holy cow.
Yeah, I just like lug it on my shoulder.
You're like a fire hydrant.
That's like a 5-pound weight. It makes my exercise more efficient.
You're like doing some arm lifts with them. Some bicep curls.
Anyway, if you are ever attacked by a bear, it's very different if you're attacked by a black bear versus a grizzly bear. So if you're attacked by a black bear, you should fight back, make yourself look big, loud, scary, and usually they'll run away. But if you're attacked by a grizzly bear, I mean, as you can see from Kendall's story, even a collegiate wrestler, no match for a grizzly bear. So do not attempt to fight the grizzly bear. Just play dead.
Play dead. Play dead.
Yep.
Yeah. When we first heard about this story, someone told us it was like a wrestler and a grizzly bear. And we're like, somebody wrestled a grizzly bear?
He's going to wrestle the grizzly bear.
No, nobody wrestles a grizzly bear.
Nobody.
Yeah.
Yep. Nobody's that strong. So
yeah, the National Park Service has a website. So if you go to nps.gov and then just search bear attacks, it has all sorts of great information about what to do if you do find yourself in that situation.
Right. And is it terrible that whenever I think of a bear, I always think of Dad's bumper?
Oh my gosh.
So our family one day was going to Yellowstone Bear World.
Yes, not to be confused with Yellowstone National Park.
Right. It's
actually in Idaho. And they have like this whole big park with bears and elk and all sorts of animals. It's really cool.
It is really fun to drive through. So we were at Bear World and there was this black bear that was just laying in the middle of the road and just kind of like taking a nap, and we couldn't get past it. And so our dad just like thought, I'm just going to give it a little nudge with his car.
He just tried to barely touch it with his bumper.
Bump it a little bit to move it out of the way. And it bit his bumper.
Yeah, it did not like that. And its tooth went right through the bumper. It's crazy.
I know. So
I always think about like the person that bought his car, like what they were thinking.
What's this hole? How did this hole get here? No clue. No idea. No clue. So anyway, you probably guess where we get our impulsivity from.
Yes, definitely Dad, not Mom.
Yeah, I know. So
and our bad sense of humor. We grew up with the worst of worst dad jokes. So.
I know, it's true. They were unbearable.
Oh my gosh. I'm ashamed. That was really bad.
That was cheesy.
Even Dad might have groaned at that one.
That was cheesy. Okay, I have one last bear story.
Okay,
before we go. One more. So I grew up terrified of bears because our sister Julie, she was kind of obsessed with bears.
I remember this.
And we went to a summer camp, and she was a couple years older than me. And they told all of us that there are bears here. And at night,
put all your food away.
Yes, put your food in the cars so that the bears can't smell them. Well, Julie wanted to see a bear. And so when no one was looking, she went and took all these grapes and she cut them in half and she sprinkled them all around our camp. And she took like breadcrumbs and she just was crazy. She was baiting the bear. Oh, no. And so the next morning, the leaders were like, someone left a bunch of food out and this bear came through our camp. And so forever, I was just always afraid that a bear was going to come eat me because my sister also.
By the way, let's just clarify that was Julie, not Holly.
That's true. Our other sister, Julie, she's fun. I love it. Anyway, well, we just want to thank Kendall for sharing his story with us. And we are so inspired by just what a good person he is and that he would literally do anything for anyone.
Yeah, he really is such a kind person. And I know that his parents have to be so proud of him. And Kendall talked about how this experience, helped him to appreciate life and how precious life is. And one of the things that also made him appreciate that was the fact that his mother passed away last October of cancer. So,
so sad.
It is. Yeah. And I just keep thinking that his mother has to be so proud of him. And
absolutely.
Clearly she taught him to be kind and to be brave and to be good. So,
right. And so we just wanted to, dedicate this episode of our podcast to her and just honor her because I'm sure she was an incredible woman.
Yes. Her name was Kendall Cummings. Thank you for joining us. If you have a miracle to share, contact us at themiraclefiles.com or find us on Facebook.
We'll post new episodes on the first day of each month. And if you enjoyed this podcast, please share it and leave us a review.
Join us next time as we discover more of God's miracles. And don't forget to look for His light in your own lives.
If you'd like to support us on Patreon so we can produce more episodes like this, go to patreon.com/The Miracle Files. You'll get exclusive access to photos, videos, articles, and other content you won't find anywhere else. We'll also have live chats, and we'd love to interact with you there. Thank you so much for your support.